done my introduction, been to a number of different cities, different size housing authority, large, small, medium size. I will say that Richmond is truly unique in having placed the majority of its public housing within a short distance from one another, all compacted in a small geographical area. We now understand that was a mistake that is not easy to undo. As we segue into fair housing and those kinds of things, we've just come out of a meeting, Angela and I just come out of a meeting, an eviction diversion task force that's been commissioned by the mayor, and a number of real estate landlord leaders and legal aid justice folks were there, and everybody's trying to figure out how to keep the residents from, not just our residents, but residents, obviously, keep them from getting evicted. But overwhelmingly, we're finding that the folks want to keep our residents in place. Why do you think that is?
You guys.
If that's a true assessment, because I'm not going to give you a mutually exclusive, but that's my assessment. Again, you're talking 30 years of having done this in multiple cities. Why are there systems that people want to keep the public housing residents in place? Any takers?
I think the public kind of views those projects as like a place of last resort, and so it's like if they get kicked out of there, they have nowhere to go, and so I think the public just sort of assumes that housing will always be there for whoever needs it, and doesn't really think about the economics behind it and you running those buildings and everything.
Yeah, and to that point, they just believe that, Mr. Duncan, you need to do a better job of keeping those places up and running. Without understanding the economics behind it, HUD is not funding it at the levels. I wish I could send you guys the numbers of what the funding has been like over the years on the operating subsidy and the capital bonds. Those are two pots of money that we use to operate our public housing. Keep in mind, we gotta have maintenance men, you gotta have property managers, assistant property managers, you gotta have contracts for cutting the lawn, you gotta have contracts for rodent removals and all the paint, unit turns, all kind of boilers. I'm sure you guys been here longer than I have. You heard about the RHA heating walls. So all of that stuff costs money. We just left a meeting where folks expect that we're gonna forgive rent. But the rent is part of our responsibility as an agency to provide the best service that we can provide. If we're not collecting rent, HUD is not funding at appropriate levels. It doesn't take a rocket science to understand what a property built in 1941 will start to look like. And so the question becomes, what the hell are you gonna do about it, Mr. Duncan? Well, what we're planning is, you guys may be familiar with public-private partnerships. One thing I forgot to mention to you guys, that we are a bond issuing agency as well. We issue bonds for other development deals. So that's a line of business that we have as well. People doing deals in Henrico, Chesterfield, all around. They come to us for the bonds to do the deal. We issue $15 to $20 million bonds for a project so affordable housing can get built. What are you gonna do about the Big Six problem? It's a big problem, big problem. Well, we have, and some of the folks that I brought with me have the wherewithal to redevelop buildings, redevelop communities, neighborhoods. Been doing this for a long time, been very successful. But the problem here in Richmond is the majority of it is families. That's one problem. The unavailability of units for families to move into while you're doing revitalization. The economic piece of it, we can do public-private partnerships, go to VHDA, get the low-income housing tax credits, 9%, 4%, do the deal, do that all day long. But we got a people issue here. What are we gonna do with the people? Anything that's a significant, a demo, and a rebuild, is gonna require that a family be relocated for a minimum of 18 months. And when you talk about demo, remediation, and all of that, you're talking more like 24 months before a family comes back, if that family wants to come back. And so what some of the advocates will say is, well, we don't want displacement. We don't want displacement. Where would the people go? What's gonna happen to them once they go? They're not prepared for, all on and on and on. And all of it is true. All of it's true. But I will tell you this, there's a lot of protections within the different revitalization programs that HUD offers that ensures their residents are not lost in the process. It ensures, guaranteed, unless they just run off in the night and you just can't find them. You cannot lose a resident. FHEO and all the 3 and 4 letter agencies are all over that to make sure that there's protections in place for the residents. But the question becomes, once you revitalize a community, you start to bring the residents back, are they able to live, thrive, dwell in the new environment? Because they're not coming back to a public housing environment. They're not coming back to an